So over the last year, with the sort of fall of Donald Trump and the way that, I mean, I find myself having to support the right wing. I mean, on almost everything these days because the left seems to be crushing them everywhere. Why do you think the left is winning so much? And what can be done? Do you think?
The left in the context of, say, the United States, and I mean, there's
Pretty
different
much the
dynamics.
entire English-speaking world, to be honest. The
Yes,
left is
yes,
very
no. So
dominant.
I think if I can point to this Bible right here, the parasitic mind, it's answering your question, because what am I saying in that book? All of these dreadfully dangerous idea pathogens all emanate from the left. Now, most people think that a lot of these esoteric, imbecilic ideas will be contained within the ecosystem of the university, but they're not.
Yeah.
Just like the coronavirus escaped from a country, we don't know its origin, because it would be racist to say where it escaped
How dare
from
you, sir?
and who lied about it and so on. I wouldn't dare say that. It's probably Donald Trump's fault. But in the same way that that virus escaped and now has stolen our lives for the past year, ideas don't stay within the ecosystem of the walls of academia. They eventually sneak out, and then they start taking over our politics, our culture, our journalism, our sports teams, our everything. And so the reason why the left is now winning everywhere is because the ideas that the leftist professors spawned 50 years ago are now coming home to roost. And so the right doesn't have a machinery to try to vaccinate people against these idea pathogens. And again, not to, forgive me the self-promotion, but one of the things that I hope I have achieved in the parasitic mind is that I haven't only identified the parasites of the human mind, but I have offered an inoculation, a vaccine against it, which I don't know if we have time or not, but
No, go
and
ahead.
it, can we do that? Okay,
Yeah, let's do
that's
it.
great. Okay, so in chapter 7 and 8, I discuss ways by which, I mean, because it wouldn't be sufficient, or it would be incomplete for me to say, here is the disease. Oh, but sorry, I've got no cure for you.
Yeah.
Good luck, right?
Yeah.
And so I really worked hard to make sure that I offered some viable ways by which we can, deal with this issue. So in chapter 7, I talk about, so I'm gonna briefly summarize chapter 7 and chapter 8, if I may. Chapter 7, I talk about this incredibly powerful epistemological tool when you're trying to seek truth. And I call it nomological networks of cumulative evidence. So it's a mouthful, so let me just step back a bit. So if you think about Charles Darwin, when he was accumulating, amassing all of the evidence in support of his theory of natural selection, he didn't do it by running a study with 30 undergrads at Ohio State and then said, good night, everybody. Instead, over several decades, he assiduously collected data from many disciplines, from paleontology, from comparative morphology, from animal husbandry, from ecology, from geology. And so when you put all that data together, it became clear that his theory was veridical. And so I argue for a similar process, and maybe I can give a specific example.
Sure.
If I want to prove to you, Carl, that toy preferences have an innate component. So in other words, the reason why little Johnny prefers the blue truck and little Linda prefers the pink doll is not only because of the nefarious influence of patriarchal toy manufacturers, but there must be some biological reasons at the root of this. What would be the data that I should acquire to convince you? And here's where we apply the epistemology that I'm proposing. So I'm going to try to think as follows. What would I have to build as a tsunami of evidence to drown you in the power of my arguments? Well, I could get you data from other animals, rhesus monkeys, vervet monkeys, chimpanzees, showing you that their infants exhibit the same sex-specific toy preferences. My God, that sounds pretty convincing. But I'm not going to stop there. I could get you data from human infants who are in the pre-socialization stage of their cognitive development, meaning that they're too young to have been socialized. They already exhibit those toy preferences. So now I've gotten you data from developmental psychology and from comparative psychology pointing to the veracity of my position. But I'm not going to stop there. I could get you data from pediatric endocrinology, where you take little girls who suffer from congenital adrenal hyperplasia. It's an
Yeah, I
endocrinological
don't know what that
disorder.
is.
You do know? Okay.
No, no, I don't. No, I don't.
Oh, you don't know what that is.
No.
It's an endocrinological disorder that masculinizes the morphology and the behavioral patterns of little girls. It makes them more like boys. It's a hormonal problem.
And
It's
I
an
can guess what the
endocrinological problem.
outcome of that will be.
Exactly. So now if you take toy preferences of girls who suffer from this disorder, it becomes like that of boys. I'll just do one or two others.
Yeah.
You can take data from ancient Greece, where you do an analysis of funerary monuments where children are depicted, and it shows you the exact same thing. So look how powerful that epistemological tool is. I got you data from ancient Greece, so across time periods. I got you data from other animals. I got you data from developmental psychology. I got you data from pediatric medicine. I could get you data across other cultures that have nothing to do with the West, and they will all point to the exact same thing. So the network that I'm building is an epistemological noose around your neck. So when you ask me the first question about the evolution of consciousness, what did I say? I came with complete epistemic humility. I simply don't know enough to answer that question. But when I know, I know. And I walk with all the swagger of someone who knows. And how do I know? Because I built the right epistemological, network. So what I argue in chapter 7 is when you are defending your positions, there is no alternative to doing your homework. If I want to prove to you that toy preferences have an innate component, I could walk into the most hostile ground and I will trash every single person there. They can't hold a candle to me, but I have to do that homework, right? Yeah. So there is no better, recipe than doing the due diligence of your position. So that's chapter 7. Mm-hmm. In chapter 8, I then offer some call to actions as to how we can redress the ship. So one of the things that I argue for is what I call activate your inner honey badger. The honey badger is an incredibly ferocious animal, size of a small dog, yet it can intimidate 6 adult lions. How is that possible? Well, because it's just astronomically ferocious. Well, I argue that you have to be ferocious like a honey badger in defending your positions. If they are well articulated, if they are well reasoned, if you have built the nomological network of cumulative evidence, I never back down. If you come after me, you better not miss, because I'm coming after you. I'm coming after your family. I'm coming after your dead ancestors. There is no end to how far I will go to come after you. Now, some people say, but Professor, isn't that mean? Aren't you being aggressive? No. I'm infinitely kind and charming until I don't have to be. When I tuck my children to bed, I'm infinitely kind. When you attack in an alley, I am not as kind. I didn't change. The situation changed. So people have to develop the reflex to fundamentally believe in their values. What these idea pathogens have done is they have raped our sense of sense-making. So I no longer know, do only women menstruate? Is it wrong for me to say that? So when people write to me, when adults write to Professor Saad saying, so what is the scientific consensus on who menstruates, Professor? It's not a good place to be. And so believe in yourself. Don't subcontract your voice to Gad Saad and Jordan Peterson. Your voice matters. You have power to affect change, maybe on a smaller platform. Believe in yourself, activate your inner honey badger, and we will redress this problem by next Tuesday. If you don't, we will be on a slow, long train ride to hell.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.